All right, unfortunately, today's recording is going to be a little short. So just as a quick disclaimer as the video starts, but welcome everybody to Foundations of Programming Day 11. Today we're going to continue with, I believe it was lesson 9, importing modules, handling exceptions and errors, as well as unit tests. The final assignment for this class, if you guys recall from the slides, was eliminate standout pi, right? Which is going to be probably the toughest assignment you guys will have throughout Foundations of Programming. Um, so today will be solely surrounding eliminate standout pi. We will be breaking off into small groups where you guys can collaborate with each other and I can bounce around. Unfortunately, I do not have ATA, so Brandy will not be available to assist you guys. So I'll try to get to every single one of you guys. But do ask your questions and give this assignment a your best try. All right, this is the closest thing you guys will get to the real thing, to the object-oriented assessment in the immersive program. So if you feel confident with this, then you will do pretty good on the uh, OOP assessment. And even if you don't feel confident, uh, by the time you guys do get to the assessment, you will have enough coding experience to be able to uh, ace the assignment with no issue. So let's go ahead and start that right off the bat. I'm going to go ahead and break out the rooms and split you guys evenly. I believe we have like 8 people today. Um, Probably our smallest amount, but it's no biggie. So yeah, go ahead and open up your FOP repository and get the assignment, and let's get straight to it. All right, let's go ahead and get started with our code along. Um, it was fun watching you guys try to do the assignment. It was interesting the kind of questions that I got. Um, most of the issues that I saw uh, seem to have been, for one, accessing dictionaries, right? Uh, Everyone that I helped, for the most part, had some kind of issue with dealing with the dictionaries, how to accessing them. Um, and also as well as I feel like you guys hit a wall once you guys start passing objects as parameters, right? And you guys start taking them as arguments and you have to use them within methods. Um, do touch up on the videos where we talk about it. You are able to pass in other objects within them. Notice that every time that you instantiate that object, it comes with all the methods you defined it, right? Like the class has its blueprint of what the object is. You guys gave it the data members. You guys gave it the methods, right? It's not. It shouldn't be foreign that an object can use dot get name, right? You guys specifically created that method, so you have access to that data member for that object, right? Um, and I feel we are forgetting that, right? We get into um these methods are like, oh, how do I got the name for this? And you don't know where the name is at. We have get name, right? We create these get methods to assist us with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and start coding along. You guys are welcome to code along with me. If we get to the part where you guys kind of left off, and then you guys can't keep up, and you guys want me to kind of stop and explain something, I can. So feel free to do that. I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing my screen. All right. Can you guys see an empty lemonade stand.py file? Okay.
Yes.
Let me go ahead and open up the README. Let's go ahead and split the screen. And we're just gonna start from the very top, right? Essentially, we have to write the code for recording menu items in daily cells of the lemonade stand. All right. It'll have the classes menu item, cells for date, and lemonade stand. Um, One thing I wasn't aware that the updated curriculum had the test already here. Um, but we're gonna do it a little bit separate. Notice that the test case is importing from the eliminate stand, all three of these. I'm gonna split up the concerns. Mainly because I don't want to be scrolling up and down 100 lines of code trying to find my classes. So I will do it a little bit different than what you guys did. That's just because that's how I like doing things as well. And also how you're probably gonna have to be doing it for the assessment too. You're gonna be expected to make different files. So I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to call this our menu item, right? So new file, menu, my keyboard turned off, menu item.py. Let's move in here, right? This is where I'm going to create my menu item class. So a menu item object represents a menu item to be offered for sale at the eliminate stand, which has 3 data members. A string for the item's name, the wholesale cost, and the selling price. So let's go ahead and define our menu item. We're going to define our init method so we can initialize our object. We're going to start with self. And the actual init method should be able to take in 3 parameters, right? We see that here on line 13. Name, wholesale cost, and selling price. So we're going to go ahead and do name, wholesale cost, and selling price. And use them to initialize the data members, right? So we're going to do self dot underscore name is equal to name. Self dot underscore wholesale cost is equal to wholesale cost. And then same thing with the selling price. All right, everything else still pretty basic. We got our init method. Cool. So we have the init method. Next would be get methods for each of the data members. Still very standard, right? Define get name. It only takes self, doesn't take any arguments, and we're gonna return our self dot underscore name data member. And we're gonna do that for the rest of our data members, also cost. Okay. It's selling price. All right. Very straightforward, right? Our init method, we ask 3 data members: name, wholesale cost, and our selling price. That's it. There's no crazy functionality here. Just a way to access these data members. This is our class, our blueprint of what's gonna make our menu item, what it includes. Now, that concludes our menu item. So let's go ahead and create a new file, and this is gonna be our sales for day.py. This will be my sales for day class. So it should take 2 parameters within the init method. So let's go ahead and define this. So class sales for day, and then define the init method. It takes in 2 data members. Sorry, 2 parameters. So number of days, and then we're gonna do. Let's change this to the number of days open. Not number of days. Number of days. We'll keep it number of days open. Now, it's honestly the naming conventions. It's only for yourself right now, right? Once it gets to later on in the work environment, that's where it becomes important. But I'll keep it to number of days open because that's how I can remember it. Next is gonna be sales dictionary, right? So it's gonna be sales dict. Notice that I put sales dict, so I know it's supposed to be a dictionary. We're going to assign these to our data members. Number of days open is equal to number of days open, and sales dict is equal to sales dict. Right. So the sales item, right? The sales for day, the initial data member should be what day it was open, right? So an integer for the number of days the stand has been open so far, and then the dictionary whose keys are the names of the items sold and whose values are the numbers of the items sold that day. So let's go ahead and add a note here so we don't get confused with what's being assigned to what. So keys is equal to, what was it? Name of item sold, and then value is going to be number of, we'll do a hashtag, number of items sold, right? I had to do this with some of you guys in your code, and I don't just do it here on the code along. I didn't just show it to you guys for no reason. Uh, we saw it, right? You guys saw it throughout our debugging and our one-on-ones and whatnot. We were getting very confused with what was supposed to be assigned into these dictionaries, right? I do this for a reason. It's very simple, but when you guys don't do it, you guys got confused very easily. What is supposed to go into this dictionary, right? Make the notes, right? Add comments. Make that a habit in your code, right? Make that a standard. This is just, a habit of mine when I code. I just make comments everywhere about what's what, right? Not only will that help you in the future, but it'll help out other developers. Have you guys ever seen the memes where it's like, when I wrote this code, only God and myself knew what it was, and now today only God knows. It's like, right? Because you'll come back to your code, and I'm telling you, it happens. You'll come back to your code months later, you're like, what the heck is happening here? What is going on? Especially if you haven't touched code in a while, and you're a little rusty with reading it. It might take you a hot minute to understand it. A prime example of this, when I got my first interview, and they wanted to see my project that I completed in my bootcamp. So when I got my first interview, like 2 months, maybe a little bit less after I left the bootcamp, but the personal project I was presenting was done like on the like 3/4 of the way into bootcamp. So it'd been about 2-3 months since I had done this project. When I opened it up, was the first time I opened it up was during the interview, right? I had not seen my code in so long. I didn't know what the heck was what, right? I had not touched code in a while because I was so busy applying. Yeah, I forgot to go back, touch up on my stuff, read what my code is doing, what my program is doing, and they were asking me questions, and I could not answer them at that moment. Because like I was going through all these files. I had like 8, 10 different files. Things were everywhere. These files were long as heck. Um, it was very confusing, right? And guess what I didn't do? I didn't add comments, and I learned from that. Never again add comments to your code, right? It'll save you a headache. So,
Roger, I have a question at this point. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So, sometimes when you've got number of days open, or no, the sales dictionary, sometimes you list it as a parameter, and then sometimes you don't, but you put it underneath with an open bracket. Is the way to know which way to do it is to think, is somebody providing a pre-populated dictionary for me, or am I creating it as we go? Is that the difference between the two?
Yeah, it's your intent, like what you want the class to do. Should I be able to give it a dictionary, or when I create this object, should I already have an empty dictionary? It's your intent when the method's created. The intent of this program when it was created wasn't for it to have an empty dictionary right off the bat. Um, so and we see that because there's no method here, right? That adds anything into the cell for date, right? It's only two methods, the init method and the get methods. But they don't have a method here which is add item to cell for date, right? Uh technically, right, if we're speaking like how this code should be written, we probably should. Right. If I was doing this in real life, I probably would want to create an empty dictionary and then create a method to add stuff for the cell for date. Right. It's the intent when you create the code. This specific example, they're telling you that it's not, right? It shouldn't be in a dictionary. It should be able to take in a dictionary, and that's going to be assigned into that data member, right?
Okay.
So,
And the other clue is that there just isn't a method to create it. Okay.
correct. Yeah, there's not a clue. It's telling you that it should take in as a parameter a self dictionary. So those are your clues right there, right? Okay, well, it shouldn't have an empty dictionary. It needs to be given one when it created, stuff like that, right? So that's kind of just how you would figure that out.
Makes perfect sense right now.
All right, awesome. Let's move forward. All right, so we got the init method, and this is gonna be the get method for each of the data members. We're going to define get day, and we're gonna return self dot underscore number of days open, and then do one for the sales date. Define get sales fixed, return self dot underscore sales fixed. All right, pretty plain and simple. That takes care of that class. Now, finally, is the actual eliminate step, right? Now for this, we will just do it in the eliminate stand.py. We'll do it here. But the other two, we no longer have this code just in there as an eyesore. Let's just focus on the eliminate stand. Now we can kind of just look away from the menu item and the sales per day. Just focus on nothing but the eliminate step. So the eliminate stand methods are init method, a get method, and then we see a whole list of different methods. And we're gonna take it step by step, right? So it's gonna be class eliminate stand, define the init method, and let's look at what the init method takes. It takes one parameter, the name of the stand, right? So self dot name of stand, right? It initializes the name to that value. So self dot underscore name of stand is equal to name of stand. Pretty straightforward. Let's go back to init method. Initializes current day to 0. So self dot underscore current day is equal to 0. Initializes the menu to an empty dictionary. So self dot underscore menu is equal to open and close curly brackets. And then initializes the self record to an empty list. Self dot underscore sales record is equal to an empty list. Right. Now notice it doesn't really specify anything yet about the menu in the sales record. So let's move forward and then we'll get to it when we get to it. So it doesn't say anything here on this on the README. So let's go ahead and move forward. Once we figure out exactly what the menu should have, we can go back and add some notes to it. So we got the name method. Next is the get method for the name. So define get name, return self underscore self or name of stand. Cool. All right. Next is the add the menu item. So wait, we're gonna define add menu item. And this should take as a parameter a menu item object, right? So comma menu item object, right? Make sure it's an object, just add object in, right? If you put menu item, you might get confused with the menu item name, right? Is it a list, a dictionary? What is it? It's an object. Menu item object. And then it adds it to the menu dictionary. New items can be added to the menu on any day. Okay, well, it doesn't necessarily specify how should that be. Well, let's think about it. What is a menu item object? It has some data members as name, wholesale cost, and selling price. How should dictionaries be formatted, right? We know that keys have to be unique, right? That's just from knowing what dictionaries are. And how am I going to differentiate the different menu item objects that I have? Well, let's look at it. Does it make sense to just add the wholesale cost or selling price as the key? Probably not. It's probably going to make sense to probably make the name as the key and then add the object entirety as a value, right? Because it has to be unique. If I want to access it later on, I can't just add random variables as the key because how am I going to know which one's which? I don't want to just make different numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, yada yada. I don't want to flip what value a keys are. I don't want to make the object as the key and the name as the value. That doesn't make sense. Right? This kind of just your intuition as a programmer. How can I access this? These key value pairs in this dictionary when I want to grab a specific object from here. Well, probably the more logical way of doing this is probably assigning the name as a key and then assigning the entire object as a value. So I can be, when I call it by its name, I grab the entire thing, right? So the menu item, we're gonna do key is equal to name. Let's add a hashtag here. Key is gonna be name of menu item, and then we're gonna do value is equal to menu item object. Okay. So this add menu item should take its parameter a menu item object and adds it to the menu dictionary, right? This is a dictionary. We have to add it in here. So I'm obviously going to want to grab that dictionary. And how do we add things into a dictionary? Well, we know from the Python crash course, how do we access dictionaries? Bracket notation. So open and close square brackets, right? By doing this, we're essentially adding a key into this menu dictionary. Well, we can already figure out what we want to add here. It's going to be the name of the menu item. And the value is going to be the menu item object. So how do we grab the name of the menu item? Well, let's look at our menu item. I want to grab its name. We already created a method called getName. So we can use that to our advantage. So we can do menu item object, right? That's the object itself. It's being passed in as a parameter. And then we're going to dot get name. Right, when it gets to this and it tries to assign something as a key, it's going to run this method and it's going to return to us our name. So this name will be saved as a key, and then the value itself is going to be the entirety of the object itself, right? So that takes care of our add menu item. All right, new items can be added to the menu on any day. All right. So what's next? Enter sales for today. All right, so define enter sales for today. It's going to take as a parameter a dictionary where the keys are names of items sold and the corresponding values are how many of the items were sold, right? So we'll call this item sold dict, right? It's supposed to take in a dictionary of items and values are what was sold. So item sold dict. Let's continue. And the corresponding values are how many items were sold. See the example at the end of the README. We come down here. What's this method called? Enter sales for today. We see here enter sales for today. Day zero sales. Where's day zero sales? Okay, here we see it. They created a dictionary for day zero and how much they sold of what. We see they sold a lemonade and they sold cookies. All right, so 5 lemonades, 5 cookies. So that's what that should look like. And we can kind of even add this if we wanted to up here so we can just see it, right? Let's go ahead and add this. Oh, it's giving me an error. Oh, I know why. No biggie. It's just still gonna give me an error. Okay, we could just do this. Or I can do that. Just keep it all in one line. Probably because it's multiple lines. There we go. All right, so we have an example here of what it looks like. It's probably giving an error because there's no code in here. Yeah, that's what it was. There's no code. All right, so we have the example there. It should be a dict like that where it's like day zero sales, and then it has the items in there with their values. I'm just keeping it here so I don't have to keep coming down here on the README to remind me if I get confused. Let's go back to enter sales for today. All right. So it takes as parameter a dictionary. Yep. If an item in the menu doesn't appear in the dictionary, then there were no sales of that item on that day. If the name of any item sold doesn't match the name of any menu item in the dictionary of menu item objects, this method should do nothing except raise an invalid sales item error. You'll need to define this exception class. Otherwise, it should create a new sales per day object. All right. Well, let's take it down a bit. Let's figure out what's happening, right? So first and foremost, let's do the first part, right? If an item in the menu doesn't appear in the dictionary, then there should be there were no sales for the item of the day. All right, so let's do that first. Let's go ahead and loop through our menu. Well, we're gonna do we have to do something where like for items in self.underscore menu, right? We have to go through this menu and then we have to compare our menu and the items sold dict and see if it's even in our menu, right? If an item in the menu doesn't appear in the dictionary and there were no sales for the item on that day, right? So that means uh if in our menu we have lemonades, but or let's say we have strawberry drinks, right? A strawberry lemonade. This is just a regular lemonade. But I do have the option of selling something on my menu that's called strawberry lemonade. But it's not here in the sales. That means it wasn't sold that day. So I'm gonna want to grab the items that were sold that day and then compare them to the items in my menu and see if it was sold. So maybe not looping through the self-style menu yet. Maybe let's start by looping through the item sold dictionary. So for items and then items sold and item sold dict dot items, right? What is this? If you guys recall to the explanation for our dictionaries in Python, we can loop through keys by doing dot keys. We can loop through values by doing dot values, or we can loop through both keys and values by using dot items. So I do for items, comma, items sold, and items sold dict dot items, right? Because this is a dictionary. So I want to grab both the key and the value to compare them. Now, as I grab every single key and value in here, I also want to check if it's in my menu. So if items not in self.underscore menu. So if it's not in there, I want to do something. All right, if the name of any item sold doesn't match the name of any menu item in a dictionary of menu item objects, this method should do nothing except raise an invalid sales item error. So if it's not in there, I should be able to do something like this: raise invalid sales item error, right? But we don't have this defined, so we're getting an issue here. So up here, if you guys recall the rating or customize exceptions, we're gonna do class invalid sales item error. It inherits from the exception class, and we're gonna just do pass. That way we can raise our own personal error. And then let's add a message in here that's gonna say something like the item, we can just give it passing items here, is not in our menu, or was it? Okay, the item so and so was not sold today, right? That means if it wasn't in our sales record and it was in our menu, that means we didn't sell any of it that day, right? So once again, if an item in the menu doesn't appear in the dictionary, then there were no sales to the item on that day. If the name of any item sold doesn't match the name of, oh, my bad, I did that wrong. So if for some reason we sell something we don't have in our menu, it needs to say that it was not in our menu, right? The other one doesn't have to do anything, right? But if it does sell something, let's say for some reason we sold freaking peanuts, but this is a lemonade stand. We don't sell peanuts. I don't know who the heck gave you a peanut, but we don't have that on our menu, sir. So we need to tell them the item peanuts is not on our menu. All right. Taking it step by step, because I know this is a little heavy when just reading all this text. All right. So that's what happens if it's not in our menu. All right. Otherwise, it should create a new sales for day object. So if we sold something in our in this day, but it wasn't in our menu, we need to raise the exception. If it wasn't in our sales record, right, but it is in our menu, then we don't do anything. But let's say it was in our menu and we did sell something that day, then we have to add it to our sales for today. So next is actually adding it to our sales record. So we've already taken care of if we sold something that wasn't our menu. If it wasn't our menu, but we didn't sell anything, we don't have to do anything, so there's no logic needed here. But otherwise, we need to create a new sales per day object using the current day and the dictionary that was passed in, right? So we need to get what our current day is, and we need to use a dictionary that we passed in as a parameter and create the sales per day. So we'll call this new sales for day object is equal to, and now we're going to create our sales per day object, right? Sales for day. Notice I'm getting an error here. Why? I'm trying to create an object that this file does not recognize, right?
You
So
haven't imported it.
I have not imported. So the very top, I'm gonna say from sales for day, import sales for day. I'm gonna import the class that I declared. Now we don't have an error. That means it recognizes it. We can hover over it and sees the definition of that class, right? It says it takes a number of days open, right? What day it was open. And then it also takes in what else? A sales dictionary. And that's exactly what the instructions say. Create a new sales per day object using the current day and the dictionary that was passed in. So what day is it? Well, let's look at our eliminate stand at line 10. We do self dot underscore current day. And then the second parameter is the dictionary, so item sold did. This will create for me my sales per day object, right? It's assigned to this variable new sales for day object. And then we have to add that object to the list of sales per day objects and then increment the current day by 1. So that means the sales worker object to the list of sales per day objects. All right, so the sales record. So for this day 0, we need to add what we sold for that day. We're closing up shop, right? Hey, we're done with our shop today. We sold everything that we wanted to sell. Let's go ahead and add it to our sales record. And then let's go ahead and cross this out of our calendar and move on to day 2 or day 1, I guess, right? Because we are using index of 0. So we need to add it to our sales record and then increment our current day to 1. So our sales record is a list. It should be something like this: self dot underscore sales record dot append, right? Because to add stuff to a list, we use the append. Then we're gonna add the new sales for day object, and then let's increment the current day by 1. So self dot underscore current day plus equals 1. Right? Let's get rid of pass because we don't need pass. We actually have some code in here. We didn't even need the item sold in this situation, right? So we can actually get rid of items sold. Let's clean this up. We don't need this. And let's get rid of items and just put keys. Dot keys. All right, we just needed the keys. All right, to compare it to our menu. So we don't even need items. Just needed keys. All right, next is going to be the sales of menu item for day. So come down here, define sales of menu item for day. Open and close parentheses. Gonna take itself. Now let's look at it. It takes as a parameter an integer representing a particular day and the name of the menu item. And it returns the number of the items sold on that day, right? So that means, hey, I want to see how many lemonades did I sell on the 7th day that my store was open, right? So it should take in, we'll call this day. And then it's supposed to check the menu item, right? So the name of the menu item, so name of menu item, right? Next, it's going to return the number of the items sold on that day. This method will use the given day to find the corresponding sales per day object in the list. So we have to go into our list right? Our sales record, look for whatever day we passed in here and then grab the record. So we have to I already know I have to do a for loop to loop through a list, right? So for day in self dot underscore sales record, right? And then I want to check what day uh the records are, right? And what is this? Well, we already came to the conclusion that this is the list of sales for day objects. So we come up here, we can do list of sales for day objects, right? That's what we did earlier when we created our sales record for that day. We created the object that had a current day and an item sold ticket. Let's look at the sales per day object. It only has two data members, guys. The what day was open and the dictionary for the item sold, as well as how many of the items were sold. So we have to go to that list, grab every single object and check what day it is, right? Essentially, we're just going through our ledger. Hey, is this page day 7? Nope, next one. Is this day 7? Nope, next one. We're just doing that over and over again until we find day 7, right? So we're looping through for day and self dot underscore sales record. And we're gonna do day is equal to sales. Actually, no, I want to change this up. We'll do for sales in self dot underscore sales record, right? So we're grabbing the sales of every single day, and then we want to find the specific day. So day, but we're passing in already day as an argument here, right? Or actually we can compare. We can do an if statement, right? We can do an if statement and see if they match. So we can do if day, right? We have the day right here that's being passed in as parameter. If day is equal to sales dot get day, right here we have a method in the sales object get day. So if the day that we're trying to check matches the day of that sales record, then we want to do something. So if day equals sales dot get day, then we want to do something. Okay. So once again, we're going through our ledger. We know we're looking for day 7, right? That's what's passed in as a parameter. And we're gonna compare that to whatever day it's written on this ledger. Hey, is this sales day 7? Nope, next one. Is this sales day 7? Nope, next one. Over and over again until we find it. Right? Now, once we find it, then we want to do something, right? We want to get the sales for that day. So back to this. The method will use a given day to find the corresponding cell for the object in the list. All right, we're doing that. We're comparing the day to the day of that specific sales ledger, and then call its get sales dict method to get the dictionary of sales for that day. All right, so next we're gonna grab the dictionary, right? So sales for day dict is equal to or let's call it sales log. Sales log is equal to sales dot get sale. Am I misspelling sales? I don't care. Get sales dict. All right. So we've gotten to the 7th day in our ledger. We found the log, right? But now we want to grab the log. We want to grab the dictionary that's within this ledger that holds what was sold and how much of it was sold. So that's what we're doing here. We're grabbing that dictionary and saving it to our data member called sales log, right? So given day to find the corresponding cells for the object in the list, and then call its get cells method to get the dictionary of cells for that day. All right, we got that. It will then look for the item in the dictionary, taking into account that if an item in the menu doesn't appear in the dictionary, then there were no cells of the item on that day. So how do we do that? If name of menu item in sales log, then we want to return something. If not, then we don't do anything. All right, because what did it say? It says take into account then if an item is in the menu, it doesn't appear in the dictionary, then there were no sales of that item on that day. But if it is, then we do want to return something. So if it is in here, we want to return sales underscore log dot get. We want to grab that key and value, right? Because remember, what is sales log? Let's look at line 32. It's a dictionary. We're going to check this dictionary if this key value pair exists. Hey, is the name of the menu item inside this dictionary, the sales log? And if it is, I want to grab it, right? So we can do get, right? Get is another method to grab stuff out of a dictionary. This was not covered in the Python crash course, but it is a way of doing it. And it's pretty cool because it gives you a secondary argument that you can try. So we can grab the name of menu item, and then the second argument we can pass is 0. And what this is saying is, hey, return sales underscore log dot get, and it grab the name of the menu item. But if it's not in there, I want you to return 0. And actually, because we're using the get method, we don't necessarily need line 33 because if it doesn't have it in there, it's just going to return 0 anyways. Right, so this is kind of redundant. We're checking, hey, is it in here? If so, then I want to grab it. Well, what's the point of using the get method and returning 0 if we've already established it does exist in here? So this is kind of redundant. We can get rid of line 33 and just have return self-log.get with the name of the menu item and then return 0 if it's not. Same thing. One, we deliberately ask if it's in there. And here, we're not even asking. We're just saying, grab that bad boy. Oh, you couldn't find it? Okay, return 0 to me. Make sense, guys? This is a very powerful method to access dictionaries. So use it, you guys can, because it does give you the option of returning in an optional statement in the event that it does not find it within your dictionary. If not, it will look something like this. If we didn't use that method, we would do if, just like we did earlier, right? Just like we did earlier, we just do return name of menu item. And where is it coming from? It's coming from the sales log. All right. If name of menu item in sales log, then return that. If not, else return 0. Same thing is what we just wrote by using the .get method. Make sense? Two different ways of doing it. You can deliberately do an if else statement to return one or the other, or you can use the .get method to just add the option there within the .get method as a parameter, like putting 0. Same concept, two different ways of doing it. I'll keep it this way because this is what you guys know. Just know that that other way I did is a way of doing it. Right? All right. Now, what happens if the day that we're requesting does not exist in our ledger? If it doesn't exist, then it's never gonna get to this part right here. We need to return something, right? Because we're looping through the sales record. Let's say we're trying to get day 7, but we only sold 5 days. Day 7 doesn't exist. So code block 31, 36 never happens. So once the for loop is complete, it's gonna return nothing to us if it doesn't exist. So we can just do return and say no information found for that day. Okay. Once again, to reiterate, what did I just do? Well, initially I was looping through the record and comparing every single page in this record to see if the day I'm asking for exists. We did the functionality to see if it does exist, but we didn't add anything to return if it didn't. And that's what line 37 is doing. It's just returning something once this for loop is done. Cool. All right, let's go ahead and move forward. Next is going to be total sales for menu item. So define total sales for menu item. It takes in self, and it takes as a parameter the name of a menu item. So name of menu item. So I should be able to grab a menu item, right? I pass in, let's say, eliminate, right? And it returns the total numbers of that item sold over the history of the stat. Right. Notice this method can make use of the sales of menu item for that day. So essentially, the sales of menu item for that day went through our sales record and looked for a specific day. Well, what if we do this for every single day that we have in here? Right. So we can say the create variable total sales is equal to 0. And this is where we're going to add the total sales over the entire period of when our lemonade stand was open. Right. Now we're going to loop through the sales record and grab every single day in here, starting from day 0 all the way to the last day that this stand was open. So for sales in self._sales record, right, we're grabbing the record up here. It's a list. Remember, it's a list of sales per day objects. What is sales per day objects? It holds what day was open in a dictionary that keeps logs of what was sold. So we have to loop through that sales record. So for sales in self._sales record, and then let's grab each day. The day is equal to sales.get day, right? Actually, I don't even think we need to grab the day. We just need to grab the menu item. We should just be able to do sales for day is equal to self.sales of menu item. But we do need a day. Why? Well, notice we're trying to use the method we created earlier, which takes a day and the name of the menu item. So we need to be able to pass in that day in here, right? And because we're looping through a list, we start at index 0 and it loops all the way through. So we're gonna grab the day anyways as we get to that sales record. So we should say day is equal to sales.getDay. Once again, where am I getting get day from? Why am I doing sales.getDay? Well, because we're looping through the list, right? What is this list? It's a list of sales per day objects. So sales is an object. It's an object of what was sold for a particular day. How do we grab the day for that? Let's look at the sales per day. We have this on line 7, get day. So we use get day. This returns to us the day of that sales. Next, we want to grab the record for that day. So we can do sales of menu item for day, open and close parentheses. We see here when we declared it, we added a day and a name of menu item. So it's going to take a day and then the name of the menu item we're looking for. Name of menu item. Right? This is going to return to me the value assigned to this, right? So as you recall from the method we did, it returns to us the value of the name of menu item of the sales log, right? It's going to return to us this, the sales date. We call the key, which is name of item sold, and returns to us the number of items sold. Right, so this is returning to us how much of that lemonade we sold on day 0. Right? And now that we have it there, we can add it to our total sales. So total sales plus equals sales for day. Right? And it's going to keep looping through until it gets through the entirety of our sales record. Day 0, right? We grab the day that we want to for that specific ledger. We grab the amount of lemonade we sold for that day by using our sales menu item for day. And then we just add it to our total sales. So it's going to do that for every single day. And once it's done with a for loop, outside of that for loop, we can do return total sales. All right. And this is going through every single day, guys, looking for the name lemonade. Once it finds lemonade, it's going to grab how much it sold for that day, add it to our total sales. All right, we did that for day 0. Next, day 1 goes into that sales record. Can you guys hear me? It says my internet connection is unstable.
Yep, you're good.
Okay, if you guys don't hear me, let me know. All right, next is going to be total profit per menu item. So define total profit for menu item. Takes itself. All right, now look at it. It takes as parameter the name of a menu item. So name of menu item. And returns the total profit on that item over the history of the stat. So once again, we want to go through the entire ledger for this item, right? Grab the total sales, but what's different here? Well, we want to get the profit that we made. How do we get the profit, right? Well, we have wholesale and we have the selling price, right? If you recall our menu item, each item we know we bought it for something. Let's say we bought bottles of water for $1 and we sell these bad boys for $5 because capitalism, right? So let's go ahead and check that out. How do we do that? Well, the profit for any item sold is the selling price of the menu item minus the wholesale cost of the item. This method can make use of total sales for menu item, right? So we can use this method we created for how many times we sold a specific item. We don't have to code it again. We already did the hard work. So we can say total sales is equal to, we're gonna call self dot total sales for menu item. Why are we using self here? Well, because the method, we're taking advantage of it. We created it, but this method was created within itself, right? The eliminate step. So just like how we access the data members, we use self._sales record to access data members within this class. If we want to use the methods that we've already created, we have to use self as well, right? So we will do self.total sales for menu item, right? This is the function we just created. And what does this take? It only takes the name of the menu item. Well, that's perfect. That's exactly what we're passing here as an argument. So name of menu item. This will return to us the total sales. We know that because we just created this method, right? And now I want to see how much this bad boy costs, right? And how much we sold it for, right? Well, we need to grab the wholesale cost. Well, let's do that. How do we grab the wholesale cost? Well, we know what the name of the menu item is, right? Where is that menu item at? In our menu data member. We know what we're selling. We have a menu for this. So we can go through this menu, look for the menu item, and grab the value, what's the value? It's an object. It's the object of the entire menu item. So we're gonna say menu object is equal to self._menu. And now we need to access the dictionary. Once again, the dictionary has keys, which are name of the menu item. The value is the object. So we're gonna grab it, and you guys already figured out what get is, so we can use .get name of menu item. This will return to us its value. And what did we say the value was? An object, right? So it's a menu object. It is this. This object has different methods: get name, get wholesale cost, and get selling price, right? So essentially we can do something like this where it's like menu object wholesale cost, right? And we can create a variable for that, and then we get the selling price, or we could just do it all in one line where we can say profit is equal to menu object dot get selling price minus menu object dot get wholesale cost. Right? Did I write that correct? Let's look at it. Get wholesale cost, get selling price. My bad. Get selling price, yeah, I did it right. Okay. So we're using the object methods to get its selling price and the wholesale cost. We sold this bad boy for 5, but we bought it for 1. So we subtract the wholesale cost from the selling price, which is tell us how much we got for profit for 1 item, right? Now we need to multiply that 1 item by how many times we sold it. So we can just do return profit multiplied by total sales. Cool. Any questions so far? I should have stopped a long time ago to ask questions.
I don't really understand line 49, just the get and then the name of menu item in the parentheses.
Yeah. So this goes back to how we access things in dictionaries, right? I talked about it in the previous methods where it was like if it was inside of the dictionary, I want to return it. If not, return 0. Right? Let's go ahead and actually do that. I want to grab the menu item within the menu dictionary. So we can say self dot underscore menu, and let's just use bracket notation instead. This will be name of menu item. All right. We're trying to grab something from a dictionary. That's what the dot game method was doing. But I guess this is more natural to you guys. I feel like the game method might be still foreign to y'all, so we can do it this way. Right? We want to grab that object. Let's look at the menu. The data member menu is a dictionary where the key is the name of the menu item and the value is an object. So we want to grab that object so we can grab its wholesale cost and the selling price, right? So by calling the menu and using its key name of menu item, this returns to us an object. Make sense?
Yeah, I just didn't get to the word get by itself. And yeah, okay, that makes sense there.
It's just a method of how to grab stuff from a dictionary. Any other questions, guys? Okay, last one, last method here. We're gonna define total profit for stat, right? Total profit per stat. It takes no parameters, right? So all it should have is self, no parameters, and returns the total profit on all items sold over the history of the stat. This can make use of total profit per menu item, right? So let's go ahead and create a new variable called total profit is equal to 0. And then we're gonna want to grab every single menu item in here and then check how much profit we made per menu item. So for menu item in self dot underscore menu, right? We're looping through a dictionary to grab the menu items. So that means we want to grab the keys. All right. We're going to grab the keys because notice that we're going to use the total profit per menu item. And this method only takes the name of the menu item. So we don't need the values. We just need the names of each item in our menu. So we grab each menu item name, and then we're going to do total profit plus equals. And then we're going to call the function we defined here, the total profit for menu item, self dot total profit for menu item. And it takes the name of the menu item as a parameter. All right, so it's going to be menu item, right? Because we're looping through the menu and grab the names, right? So it's going to loop through it the entire menu on line 55. As it grabs the names of the items, we're going to run the total profit for menu item method we declared earlier. It returns to us the profit, right? Because that's what it shows here on line 51. Profit times total sales. So that tells us how much profit we made for the item throughout the history, but we want to get the total profit for everything in our stat. And that's going to be added into our total profit variable here. Then finally, we can just return total profit. Right. All right, 8:43. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Finally, we actually want to test out our code. So down here, we're going to define a main method, right? The eliminate standout.py file must include a main function that runs if the file is run as a script, but not if it's imported to another file. If you guys recall the conversation that we had about name equals main, we need to do that, right? So if underscore name is equal to underscore main, then we want to run our main function, but we don't have a main function yet. So let's go ahead and declare that. Define main. All right, and here we're gonna add the actual functionality where we create our eliminate stand. So we have to create an eliminate stand object, create one or more menu items, and add them to eliminate stand menu. Create dictionary. We have examples here. I have the example here already written. So let's go ahead and copy and paste it for the sake of time. And I am creating stuff here, right? And notice I do have some errors. Menu item is not recognized because it doesn't, it's not creating the menu item. That's because I haven't imported. So let's go ahead and import that. For from menu item, import the menu item class. There we go. So in this example, I am creating my different objects. I create a eliminate stand called stand. I create a menu item 1. I add it to my stand. I create a second menu item called item 2. I add it to my stand. I create a third menu item called item 3, and then I add it to my stand. Next, I create a sales per day 0, which is that lemonade and cookie dictionary that we've been using as example. And I added to my enter sales for today. You don't need the try and accept. I forgot why I added this, but essentially it's, I mean, I can get rid of it actually. Let's get rid of this to not confuse you guys. All right, I create a dictionary, day 0 sales, and then I add it to my sales for the day. Okay. Print. All right. So let's run this. Eliminate profit 0. So, I mean, it's working, but we have a unit test here, right? And we're going to use this unit test to our advantage. Notice that it's trying to import menu item, eliminate stand, and invalid sales item error directly from the eliminate stand.py. Because originally this file, it's assignment, I was supposed to create everything within the same eliminate stand file, but I separated it. So it made my code a little bit more simpler. So it doesn't recognize some of this stuff. Also because my eliminate stand is called different. So it was capitalized here, but my eliminate stand.py wasn't. Let's fix imports. Let's get rid of this. It's not recognizing my eliminate stand. Why is it not? Invalid sales item error. Oh, there's a capital S here. There we go. So let's lower this to lowercase and notice it's recognizing it. Let's go ahead and import sales for day as well, just to make sure it's good here. I don't think it uses it here on the test, but let's go ahead and testing my functions. We can run this test, open it up, and I got 5 tests ran and everything was perfect. All right, so my code did exactly what this test was asking for it. So use the eliminate stand test file when you guys complete your assignment. And give it a try. You know, try not to use too much about my recording. See if you can get it down and see how many of these tests you pass. If you separated the concerns or you call your test file differently, make sure you fix the imports up here, right? Just like I did, my eliminate stand file was called differently. It wasn't capitalized like it had it here, so it was giving me an error. But notice sales per day is kind of like, you probably can't see it from your screen, but it's grayed out because it never uses it in the test. So it's no big issue. but I was able to import everything directly from my Lemonade stand because I imported it in here. All right. All right, guys. Time is 8:48. What are your questions?
I have a quick question about your last um, function in Lemonade Stand. You have the total profit per stand. You look through um, the menu keys for looping through the values. How would you do that? Like say for
Dot values.
you just do dot values. That
Correct.
easy.
Yep.
Not
For keys is dot keys. For values, dot values. If you want both at the same time, it's dot items.
Okay. Gosh,
Right.
yeah. That's why you had items first, and then you switched to keys at one point.
Yep. I just needed keys.
Okay.
If you do dot items, you have to add another parameter here to take count for it. So menu item, menu object is the value,
Mhm.
right? And then you would switch this to dot items.
Okay.
Right? But no, it's grayed out because I never use the value. I only needed the keys, which is why I use dot keys.
Okay.
All right, no problem. Who else, guys? Who feels overwhelmed right now? I know you all do. I saw your faces as I've been coding along. Some of you guys were just looking at like, what the heck is going on? I understand. It's a lot. Your assessment is going to be just like this, if not harder. Which is why I stressed a lot about object-oriented programming. Which is why, for those of you guys who missed this last week, because Owen, you weren't the only one. I messaged you guys. I told you, hey, if anything, ensure you watch object-oriented programming videos. Right? That is the main meat and potatoes of foundations of programming. That's what's going to give you the biggest headache because this is gate one. You guys can start and you're going to be given an assessment like 2 weeks into the immersive program, which is why the foundations of programming course is amazing. And we are thinking about making it permanent for everybody, and not optional because we have so many students go in, not take foundation programming and they struggle, right? Um, so this is important, guys. Right? If you guys didn't understand what happened, I uh recommend go back to the video and see what I was talking about when I was coding. Right? If you got stuck, review the video. I try my best to explain everything multiple times. I don't know if you guys notice that over and over again, telling you where I was grabbing things because it is a lot of moving parts. Right? We do have different classes with different different data members with different values in there, whether it's a dictionary, whether it's a list of objects, what these dictionaries have assigned as keys and values. It's important. Proper documentation will save you a headache. So, and you saw that as I was looping back, going back and forth, grabbing between dictionaries, keys, values, what was what. If I would have not had those notes, I would be confused every single time I went back to a data number. All right, you need to know how you're saving things, what you're naming them. As you see here, it actually is important. You couldn't really tell when we first had like little bits of code of maybe 10, 15 lines. When you start getting to object-oriented programming and you have, I wouldn't call it a lot, but 77 lines of code, right? This 77, here's 16, here's 11, about 100 lines of code. When you guys first start off, it's a little overwhelming. So it's important that you guys understand how you guys structure code, what you name your different variables, and the comments you add. That will keep you from getting confused and overwhelmed by how much you've coded. Uh, when I tell you that the assessment will be a lot heavier in this, I mean that, right? You're gonna have to import other files. You got recall, I told you guys, comma separated values, format all this data that you're importing, and then add them in and create dictionaries and objects with the information you're being given. Who thinks this is hard? Yeah, it is because it is hard. Right? It is very hard. Um, some of you guys, I guarantee you're probably thinking to yourself, like, yo, this is significantly harder than anything else we've done so far in the foundation programming. And I got this same comment in the last class. They said, you know, there should be a uh a lesson between this one and the previous one that kind of builds up to it. Realistically, everything that's taught here, the one thing I introduced that was different that I just kind of threw you guys out of nowhere was the dot kit method. But we are wrapping up everything together. We're putting the classes and objects together. We're putting the dictionaries, the lists, right? Accessing all these things, for loops, we're using them, right? All this is finally tying together in how it works.
I have a question, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to word it.
Right.
Before I could even figure out how I wanted to try to code it, sometimes I just wasn't even sure what it was asking me to do or what it was gonna provide or what it wasn't gonna provide. And I'm wondering, is that something that comes with time too? Because
I will say,
I can't
I will
understand what
say,
that.
yes. I will give you that one. This README probably wasn't the best at explaining it. Your assessment will be a lot better at it. I haven't made adjustments to the README. Like I've mentioned to you guys before, initially this class was created by Guillermo. He did an amazing job for it, but there is some
Mhm.
things that could be updated, and that's gonna be on me. So if that was one of your issues, uh, know that that's not your fault, right? That is our fault. Mine specifically for not getting to it. I teach this 3 times a year. All right, I
Yeah.
teach five. And then I have like my regular day with my family. Any changes I make is my own time, right? When I'm not working and I'm not getting paid. So I'll get to it when I get a chance, but you are absolutely right. There should be some more explanation exactly, or maybe format the README a little bit better to make it easier to understand. I completely understand that point of view, and you are right.
Okay, yeah, my main concern is it won't be like that in our assessment though, right? You're saying
It's
it's
still
not
gonna
just
be
you get,
it's still gonna be a lot of information, but it's gonna be formatted better. Yes, it'll
okay.
be easier to read. I will say that.
So then we
Right.
can focus on how do I code this instead of how do I understand
Yeah.
what,
And I believe it will even give you kind of examples of how it should look like
okay,
as well, so you'll have an idea how to go.
okay.
But yes, uh, and just like you see here in the eliminate test file, you'll have it will look very similar to this, where you have a bunch of stuff like this, where they're creating uh instances of stuff, passing things in, and then using the assert equal and testing your stuff out, right? It'll show you how the classes are being called and what being passed in here. And if your function isn't working in this manner, then it's probably something wrong with it. So, which is why unit test was another important class of understanding of how to read it. So when you guys go to assessment and you're getting failures, you can understand, okay, let me look at the unit test. What the heck is it asking from me? I'm sorry if you guys can barely understand me. I am sick still. So my voice is a little raspy. Other questions, guys?
Yeah, I got a question. When I was going through the methods, I wanted to use like print statements, but I just didn't even know where to, like how to implement them, like just because the classes, we had different classes and so I was wondering if you could just kind of show us how, an example of how we would use a print statement to kind of get us an idea of where, if we're implementing the methods correctly.
Yeah, let's do that. So we have that in our eliminate stand.py. We already have some example that we were making here. Let's say we were let's test one out. What's a good example we can test out? Let's see. Um, let's go with total sales for menu item. Well, if we go back to our eliminate stand.py and to set the date, we can do it here. As you work through, you can, make some examples yourself, create, eliminate, stand, right? Instantiate it. Instantiate some menu items, kind of get something there so you kind of visualize what you're working with, and then use the method you're creating, right? Total sales per menu item. So let's go ahead and call this. What does this one take? We'll take in the name of the menu item. Let's add lemonade, because we know that's one of the ones that we have for it on our day of sales. Lemonade, right? It takes in the name of the menu item. We run it, it doesn't print anything out. It's supposed to return something. But let's print something out here, right? Total sales per menu item. Well, here we're supposed to go to the sales record and check things out. Well, let's kind of print it out here. Print sales. What does our sales record look like? So I'm calling this method here, right? It's going to run through the code. I know I have to go through the sales record, but maybe I don't understand exactly what my sales record looks like. So let's run it. And then we see here printed out. It's printed out objects. So there's two objects in here. There's two sales records. And that's one way you can do it to see how it looks like. If you want to see what the sales record has, sales record, it's a list of objects. Let's see if we can do, let's change the string on the cells so we can visualize what it is. So if you guys recall the dunder method, str, return, let's format this to day open is equal to sales underscore number of days, number of days open. This is where this comes, my bad, I meant to put so. Already done their method really helps a lot because you can kind of visualize what the data members have. Sales dictionary is equal to sales underscore sales dict. Right. Now let's go back to our eliminate stand up high. Print this out. And see, it's printing out our sales object here. Instead of giving us that hash that we had before, we see we're getting a better example of what that dictionary looks like, right? Because we changed the dunder method. So it shows us the day that was open and the lemonade, the sales dictionary, what was sold that day. Lemonade 5, cookie 2s, right? So we were able to kind of look at the sales record as we're coding this out. Imagine we don't even have any of this yet, right? I'm supposed to check the sales record and look for a menu item. So now I know what this looks like. Okay, it's an object, right? And this object has the day that was open, the sales dictionary, it's a data member. So now you can kind of use that to your advantage. Well, I want to grab the day. I want to grab the actual dictionary itself, right? Or does that make sense to you guys so far? You can kind of visualize the data a little bit better by adding the dunder methods, doing a print statement as you're calling this out, see what the sales record's supposed to look like, stuff like that. These are objects, right? And then we can rename what it prints out when we print out the object by giving us some of the data members. All right. And that's how you can use the print statement. Hopefully that kind of explained it.
Yeah, that was helpful. Thank you.
No problem. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and stop it here. It is 9:02. All right. Hopefully you guys learned something here. If you guys have any questions, do message the chat. Tomorrow we're going to move on to reading and writing files. We'll have a little bit more object-oriented programming left the remainder of the week. And then after this week, we're going to close out this chapter and move on to data structures and data algorithms. But thank you guys for showing up today and your undivided attention. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you.